Hello everyone, and welcome to the Week 9 edition of the Wilkes Journal-Patriot's High School Football Rundown, presented by Cooks and produced by RiverStreet Production. I'm sports editor Zach Colburn, and I'm joined as always by assistant sports editor Brandon Moree, who will be with us in just a minute and take a closer look at this week's games. It was a very busy Friday night in Wilkes County as all four high schools hosted football games, and East Wilkes is still undefeated with less than 3 games left to play in the regular season. Brandon's got more on that over at the big board.
Thanks, Zach. Last week we took a look at West Wilkes and Wilkes Central as they were at home on Friday night. This week we're going to take a look at East Wilkes and North Wilkes. And we're going to start with East Wilkes' 65-20 win against the Allegheny Trojans on Friday night in Ronda. That's Bryce Festal there, and he was off to the races. A 52-yard touchdown run that gave the Cardinals a 24-0 lead in the first quarter, and then early in the third, Devin Couch is going to take one around the outside. That put his team up 32-8. Allegheny scored on this fumble recovery late in the game. That's Dustin Rector. He had an interception for a touchdown last week at West Wilkes, and he gets another defensive touchdown this week, but it was a little bit too late. Too little too late for the Trojans as they fall 65-20. Bryce Festal went 4 for 7 for 77 yards and a touchdown through the air. He had 2 carries for 57 yards, including the touchdown that we saw. 2 really amazing stats here for East Wilkes. Both Damian Reed and Devin Couch each only had 8 carries, 4 carries apiece. Reed turned that into 159 yards, including a long run we're going to take a look at here in just a few minutes. And Devin Couch had 127 yards and scored 3 times. All right, we're going to move across town to Hayes, where North Wilkes and Elkin put on a wild offensive show. This is the first touchdown of the game. Jarrett Grimes is going to recover the fumble on a wild snap and take it 40 yards to give the Vikings the early lead. But the Elks were dangerous through the air. The 2 teams combined for more than 100 points and more than 1,000 yards of offense, and the Elks threw for more than 400 yards on the game. The Vikings were just as dangerous, but they did their damage on the ground, and that's Kobe Brown scoring the final touchdown of the game for the Vikings on a tough 44-yard run, a big 67-49 win for North Wilkes in Hayes on Friday night. The Elks made a late charge, scoring 4 fourth-quarter touchdowns, but the Vikings had built a big enough lead early on in the game. Bo Burgess, the Elkin quarterback, threw for 7 touchdowns, a phenomenal game for him, but Jarrett Grimes was equally as impressive as he ran for 332 yards, which is not actually a career high. That tells you how great of a runner he has been. And 6 touchdowns on the game. He had his first catch of the year for 34 yards. Ethan Brown for the Vikings went 5 for 9 for 113 yards and a touchdown. He also scored on the ground as he had 9 carries for 78 yards. All right, that's going to do it for the highlights. Let's take a look at the stats from the other 2 games involving Wilkes County teams. We're going to start with West Wilkes and Starmount. Starmount improved to 4-4 on the year with a 45-25 win in Millers Creek on Friday. They pulled away late. They scored 3 fourth-quarter touchdowns. They saw 2 really tremendous rushing performances, one from Peyton Mullis, who had 23 carries for 248 yards and 2 touchdowns, and Brendan Eads. Both of those running backs are seniors. Brendan had 12 carries for 118 yards, and he scored 4 times. For the Blackhawks, Alex Ortiz went 6 for 14 for 116 yards, his second most passing yards on the season, as the Blackhawks were held to their lowest total of rushing yards on the year. Ortiz had 19 carries for 65 yards. He did throw 3 touchdowns, 1 each to Wyatt Whitworth, Cole Smith, and Tyler Skeen, who are all listed there below. Okay, and the last game we're going to take a look at is the Wilkes Central and Ashe County game. Wilkes Central pulled out a 32-21 win in Moravian Falls on Friday night. Camden Wyatt went 13 for 25 for 193 yards and 2 touchdowns. Joe Ray Morrison was the leading rusher. He had 13 carries for 119 yards and a touchdown. Tyler Bowles had a big game on both rushing and receiving, as he had 12 carries for 92 yards and 2 scores. He had 5 catches for a team high 91 yards and a touchdown. Skylar Brooks also had 5 catches for 62 yards. All right, that is it for this week's games. Let's take a look at the play of the week. We're going back to Ronda. I told you about Damian Reed's big night, over 150 yards on just 4 carries. Well, here are 98 of those yards, and look at that young man go. What a run. What a great year he and Devin Couch are both having as running backs for the Cardinals, and another big win. They are still undefeated, like Zach said earlier. All right, that's going to do it for me. Zach, back to you.
Thanks, Brandon. As all 4 teams were at home this past Friday, All 4 of them will be on the road this coming Friday, as East Wilkes will travel up the mountain to Ashe County, Wilkes Central will travel to Allegheny, West Wilkes will travel to Elkin, and North Wilkes will travel to Starmount. And you can follow all of that action at our Twitter and Instagram handles at WJP_sports. While you're at it, like us on Facebook as well. This has been the Week 9 edition of the Wilkes Journal-Patriots High School Football Rundown presented by Cooks. We'll see you on Friday night.